maybe just a little bit about me. I was born here in Topeka, but was raised in Harrington, Kansas. Harrington is a town of about 2,500 people in the central Kansas, and it depended on the railroad, the Rock Island Railroad. I was raised Baptist, and I had a very devout Baptist mother. And, I'm still sort of stunned that this little Kansas girl found her way into a Zen center and flourished. It just almost immediately spoke to my heart. So when I left home, I got into Pentecostalism, speaking in tongues and all of that. It was really fun because we got to dance in the aisles and things like that. That was a really cool thing to do. But it became very clear that that wasn't going to answer any of my fundamental questions. So I went to another fundamentalist church and found the same thing. And then I went to a Methodist church and I found the same thing. And then to a Unitarian Universalist church and found the same thing. And one of my friends from that particular church invited me to Lawrence. And that's where I began practicing at the Kansas Zen Center. Stepped inside the door and just went, I'm home. I'm home. So ever so grateful for the Kansas Zen Center being there, because it would have made it a lot harder for me to establish a practice. So, why did I start practicing? Do you ever ask yourself that? Why am I doing this? It's not always that comfortable to be sitting on your cushion and asking yourself a question over and over, or to sit with some anxiety, or to sit with some depression, or to sit with an angry conversation you just had with a loved one, or whatever that is. It's so wonderful to sit if you're all blissed out, but that's kind of not a real typical thing. I think one of the things that drove me nuts at first was boredom. Just sitting there and breathing. And if it wasn't for Sangha, I don't know that I could have stayed on my cushion. That's the gift of having a Sangha be there for you, because there's a little peer pressure there, and you can use that to help your practice, right? As a matter of fact, I still use the Sangha for peer pressure. On those days when I'm not feeling that well, or I don't want to sit, or whatever, I know my Sangha depends on me to be there, and so it keeps me on my cushion. It keeps me practicing. So that's a good thing. I almost wanted to start this talk with asking you if there was anything on your heart that you wanted me to talk about. So I guess I'm just going to put that out there. Is there anything that anyone feels really strongly that they would like to hear something? Okay. Well, then you're going to get it. You're going to get my own talk. So a long time ago, back in the 1960s, they did this study. I think it was a psychological study with goldfish. And they had a very large fish tank. And they put little baby goldfish in the fish tank. And then they put a glass partition that bifurcated the tank. So these little baby fish could see the other side of the tank. But every time they tried to swim over there, their little noses would hit up against the glass. So weeks and weeks go by, and now we have adult goldfish. And so they took that partition out of the fish tank. and the fish didn't swim to the other part of the tank. They were conditioned to stay right in that little part of that fish tank. And I always think that's the way we are with ourselves. We're conditioned from the time we're tiny little babies until even now, conditioned by a society, conditioned by the environment we grow up in. And then even now, we underscore that conditioning with our like and our dislike mind. Right? You know, the Heart Sutra that we just chanted says, and the mind is no hindrance. Without any hindrance, no fears exist. And what does that mean? It means that we don't have to be in that cage. We don't have to stay on that one half of the fish tank. So Zen meditation is finding your true self. I'm sure you've heard that many, many times, finding your true self. What does that mean? What does that mean? Our true self is before thinking. So it's before name and form. Do you understand what that means? Do you understand that? I mean, think about that for a minute. Before thought. Descent always brought up Descartes, I think, therefore I am. But if you're not thinking, then what? We are not our thoughts. We are not our conditioning. Our true self is something before name and form, before conditioning, before all of that. And doing this meditation practice helps us to begin to see that more and more clearly. So I want to tell you a story about Kilche. And I've told this story before. If you've heard it, just listen to it again, because I want to tell it again. My mother used to tell me that. She repeated herself a lot. And then she'd say, I don't care if I've told you before, I want to just say it again. So that's what I'm going to do. So after I retired, I was able to take off that 100 days for Kilche and to sit the whole thing. It was really wonderful to do that. It was a sort of a life-changing experience. But it was the second or third week of Kilche, and I'm just really getting into it. And this young man appears, because you can sit 1 week of Kilche, right? So he comes in on a Saturday, and I immediately disliked him. And I thought he was obnoxious. And when he had these slippers, and when anybody who's been in the monastery knows that there's wooden stairs there. And so he'd go up down the stairs, clomp, 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 clomp. And he was just noisy, and he was big, and he didn't eat right. And I found myself nitpicking at this guy. So I have this wonderful seat in the monastery, and I'm facing west, facing the glass and the pond down below and the Zen Center. And, you know, it's just beautiful and serene. It's a perfect place to meditate. It's Tushita heaven, where everybody can get enlightenment. And what's going on in my brain is, oh, this guy's a jackass. And I just am going like this. Pretty soon I realized that it wasn't just him, but anybody sitting next to me was also the benefit of my yappy mind. Oh, they're not sitting correctly. They take too much food. Or how does she stay alive? She doesn't eat very much. And just all this critical stuff, right? And then I realized that I was doing that to me. Oh, I'm such a bad Zen student. I don't have any concentration. Oh, And then the other side of the coin too. Oh, I'm such a good Zen student. Look what a great meditation 30 minutes I had, right? And as I began to actually really see all those thoughts and the emotions that came up with it, I just was in distress. So I went in for my interview with Zen Master Wu Kuang, who's the Zen Master for Choge International Zen Center. And I sat down on the cushion in front of him. And, he's so gentle and understated. He said, "How are you doing?" And I burst into tears and began to tell him what a cesspool I found my mind to be. And ever so kindly, he said, "Well, at least you're noticing." I know. I couldn't believe it. I was noticing. I finally began to really see what was going on here. Really see it. That's the work we do on the cushion. Because once you notice it, once you notice the patterns of your thoughts and even if you're a very nice person and not critical like I am, just watching those thoughts appear over and over and over. And the thing is, I had really attached to those thoughts. I saw my thoughts as the absolute truth. It was truth. I knew that I was right. This guy was obnoxious, right? I knew I was right. And when Zen Master Wu Kuang said, "Well, at least you're noticing," it just hit. Oh, I can let all of that go because it's not truth and it's not me. It's this conditioning. It's this, I told somebody, I said, I realized that critical mind was my mother talking. And I was absolutely horrified, right? My mother was a highly critical woman. Yeah. So we call it attachment in our school. You attach to a thought. So when you're meditating and a thought comes up and you really like that thought and you follow it to its natural conclusion, you hold on to it and it becomes your truth. But that's not who you are. It's not. And you can let that go bit by bit by bit. And then you begin to understand that the way that you're conditioned, and I call that karma, that habit mind that we all have, then you begin to understand that you don't have to throw it all away, but you can use it. But you don't use it mindlessly anymore. You notice it. You can see it for what it is. And then you're out of that cage. The mind has no hindrance. And then that means that you can use your karma to help other people. There's a lot of aspects to Zen practice. I tried to write them down one time. I have this long list of about 20 different things that I call aspects of Zen. We talk about mindfulness and we talk about paying attention and all of that. But it really comes down to just what Marshall said. Moment to moment to moment. What are you doing right now? What are you thinking right now? Where are you at right now? And one of the best ways to continue to bring yourself back is to ask that question. A great question really helps our practice, I think. Some people don't have a great question, which has always surprised me. But a great question is like an anchor for your practice. So moment to moment, you don't have to sit on your cushion. Meditation doesn't stop when you get up off your cushion. That's the other thing Kyelche taught me. It doesn't ever stop. Right now, at this moment, I'm doing talking meditation with this awareness of what it is that I'm talking about, awareness of your faces, awareness of the experience of communicating with you. When you're driving, you're right there doing driving meditation. When you're cleaning the house, you're doing cleaning house meditation. I want to say something too about been thinking a lot about ritual and how human beings make meaning. So I know I'm kind of talking off topic here, but bear with me. I read a book recently called How God Works. And this particular author was talking about the rituals that we use that helps us develop community. You know, many rituals like a bat mitzvah or a bar mitzvah or something like that is a ceremony or a ritual that helps to bind a community together, bond a community. And you know, one of the other studies that they did, they were talking about people who had some kind of little ritual before they ate would take in less calories. Right? So there's some aspect to our life that allows us, if we can do this, it allows us our whole life to have some kind of meaning. Right? So you know, one of the aspects of Zen is this idea of paying attention. And, you know, all of this, actually mindfulness and paying attention, it becomes almost, you know, just something thoughtless that we say about Zen and being mindful and all of that. But, you know, paying attention, and the reason, in my mind, ritual and attention end up being like twin sisters. When you pay attention to any aspect of your life, then that generally means that you care about it, right? We don't attend to things that we don't really care about. But you can bring that sense of care into almost everything that you do. So when I dust furniture, I love furniture with my dust cloth. When I'm vacuuming, I'm very carefully attending to the carpeting. When I'm making a meal, I really bring a sense of this practice and this don't know mind into that meal. You know, it's a little bit like chanting Kwanzaa Bosal throughout your life and bringing that quality of love and care and concern to everything. And bring that to yourself as well. That sense of really attending to who you are and what you are and how you grow and how you do everything in life. You know, the Buddha taught serenity first and then wisdom. It's a part of what we're doing on our cushion. When you take that deep breath in and you breathe out, you let that exhalation be stronger. We're actually stimulating the vagus nerve in our body. And as we do that, that brings our respiration rate down, our heart rate down. That serenity, that tranquility, then allows our minds to settle down. And then we can begin to see that before thinking mind, before name and form. It's not vacuous, right? It's not. So don't think of it as vacuity. It's not that. Banki, who was a Zen master a long, long time ago, calls it the unborn mind. I like that. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. I always think of emptiness as the great pregnancy. That's my midwife coming out in me, right? Because everything arises from that and everything returns to that.